In the darkness and despair of war, a light is shining in Gaza. A former terrorist who turned to Christ reports that Gaza's Christians are serving their community. And Jesus is appearing to people in dreams and visions. Gary Lane has the story.
In Gaza, a place currently filled with many conflicts and challenges, people say Jesus appeared to them, bringing not only peace, but healing and faith. Many claim thousands have turned from fear to hope, with whole families saying they saw visions and felt their lives change. Could this be like the miracles we read about in history books and the Bible? Is God showing that even in the darkest places, His light still shines? Join us as we look into these reports of how Jesus appeared in Gaza and what this could mean for faith today. A war zone meets the Prince of Peace. Grieving families in Gaza began to feel God's presence.
Because the Lord appeared to them in visions and dreams, and they were hugging each other and rejoicing, and realized that all of them had the same vision that each one of them had.
And even as bullets fired and buildings fell, their hope grew. They were exhausted and broken, but His presence came, not in bright lights or loud voices, but softly, in their dreams. As they slept, heads heavy with sorrow, many dreamt of a man in simple clothing, kind eyes full of compassion, offering words of comfort and peace. It wasn't just one or two, over 200 men reported the same vision on the same night, embracing one another in joy, showing they had shared something miraculous. From that moment onward, something shifted in those who experienced it. They came together, drawn by the bond of that shared dream. Even amid grief, they found unity and a spark of faith that rose from their broken hearts. They sought truth, comforted by someone who felt like the answer. But it does not end here. These men, once consumed by fear, were now asking simple, serious questions. How do we follow Him? Their search wasn't complicated or demanding. It came from a place of raw need and sudden hope. Local underground ministries were filling in at the same time. They provided more than just a place to stay. They also read from Scripture, told stories, and held hands. As a result, seeds of trust germinated. Numerous people who had lost everything discovered a new purpose, while others questioned whether this was indeed the case. Naturally, this raises the question of whether a dream has the power to alter a person's life. In the midst of shortages and air attacks, hundreds of people came forward to ask questions and to hear what the person who visited them in their sleep had to say. These stories didn't stay hidden. Even while the world's attention remained fixed on politics and conflict, news of these dreams and the resulting conversions made their way beyond Gaza's walls. Reports from Christian leaders and media began to trickle out, giving outsiders a glimpse of something sacred growing in the hardest place. Still, skepticism followed. Some questioned the source or accuracy of the accounts. But those who had dreamed, those who had sat shoulder to shoulder in darkness, trembling yet hopeful, felt the impact. This wasn't about proof or evidence. It was a turning point in their hearts, where grief met faith. So, this is how a war zone met the Prince of Peace, not with trumpets or parades, but with dreams in the night, simple longing, and trembling faith. And from there, lives began to change. Amid relentless airstrikes and crumbling walls, countless Gazans found themselves awakened by something beyond fear, a figure of calm, appearing clearly in their minds. These weren't ordinary thoughts, but shared visions that clustered like stars in the night. But this is where it gets even more interesting. This vision wasn't experienced by just one person. Over 200 people reportedly saw the same image in their minds on the same night. They felt joy wash over them. Some even held each other in celebration when they realized they'd shared the same experience. And suddenly, fear and division began to melt. In hushed rooms lit by candles, people spoke of that vision and compared notes. What they heard from each other grounded their hope and called them toward unity. At the same time, Some of those who had the vision turned to local ministries for answers. Underground Christian groups stepped quietly into the shadow of conflict, offering guidance, scripture, and care. These ministries didn't invite confrontation. They offered love and understanding, and many hearts responded. Still, one might wonder, can a shared dream or vision create such deep change in the darkest place? In Gaza, it appears it can. That vision stirred something that words alone could not reach. Word of these visions traveled beyond Gaza's borders, reaching both believers and the curious alike. Reports calling it a supernatural move of God began to surface, painting a picture of faith that took root amid ruins. Yet, for many, skepticism followed close behind. On platforms like Reddit, some challenged the authenticity, pointing to a lack of verification or questioning whether repeated dreams were simply rooted in stress or suggestion. Still, to those who experienced it, the vision felt more than just a dream. It was a turning point. Whether or not outsiders believe, for them, it was real. A shared moment of clarity in a place that seemed to offer none. Thus, visions in the midst of violence became more than personal experiences. They wove a new narrative through the community, one where hope began to outshine despair. And from that shared vision, something new dared to grow. From fear to faith in Jesus. Just as shared visions began to unite hearts, now we'll explore how fear slowly gave way to faith among the people of Gaza. At first, fear was all around, fear of war, loss, and the unknown. Many were trapped in endless worry, each day heavy with danger. And yet that same fear became a pathway to something deeper, a longing for something beyond what they knew. Amid that darkness, the dreams of Jesus offered a quiet light. When these visions came, they weren't just moments of comfort. They were sparks, stirring hope in hearts that had almost stopped hoping. People began to wonder if there could be more than sorrow. That shift didn't happen overnight. Families who still carried grief started gathering in small groups, sharing their experiences and leaning on each other. In those moments, faith slowly crept in, not with force, but with gentleness, as they listened and found meaning together. But that's not all. During those gatherings, local underground Christian ministries offered something gentle. They shared stories, read passages, and also listened to the people, but they didn't cast judgment. Instead, they spoke of peace, forgiveness, and a path forward. Through those words, faith began to take root. Yet transformation wasn't only about words. It was about love in action, ministering with food, with care, with prayer. When those who were afraid received kindness, their hearts softened. They saw faith as more than belief. It became a choice born of trust and real connection. Gradually, the question surfaced. Is it possible for hope to rise amid such pain? In Gaza, it quietly did. Fear turned into questions. Questions turned into seeking. And seeking, in many cases, turned into faith. Outside Gaza, reports began to emerge, news of hundreds drawn toward Jesus after dreams and ministering touched lives. Small ripples turned into a broader wave as stories of changed hearts began to spread. Across the globe, numerous modern accounts echo the extraordinary claim of Jesus appearing to individuals, most commonly in dreams or visions. For instance, missionaries like James Bradford and Dick Brogden report that many Muslims, particularly in Islamic regions, describe encountering Jesus in their dreams. These experiences have sparked a wave of conversions, with testimonies suggesting these dream visitations offer comfort and conviction in places where open sharing of Christian faith is dangerous. In one moving example, a woman speaking with Transform Iran shared that she initially resisted these visions, but eventually surrendered to the experience, feeling invited by Jesus' gentle voice to follow him, a calling that led her to become a pastor. Meanwhile, personal dream accounts shared online reflect similar themes. A Reddit user described a dream where Jesus, radiant and loving, enveloped them with peace during a difficult time of grief and hardship. Another recounted seeing Jesus in a luminous cloud, whose identity was unmistakable, not visual detail, but presence carried meaning and assurance. This next bit will blow your mind as it shows you similar experiences across the world. In other parts of the world, visual or symbolic manifestations foster deep spiritual impact. In the Philippines, worshippers were surprised when a cloud formation took on the likeness of Jesus, with discernible features like flowing hair and a raised hand, prompting thousands of believers to flock to the site in prayer, interpreting it as a divine sign. Additionally, sensational efforts using AI technology, applying tools like Midjourney and GenCraft to images of the Shroud of Turin, have produced lifelike videos and images of Jesus blinking, praying, or smiling. Although these digital reconstructions carry artistic and theological debate, they show humanity's enduring fascination with how Jesus might have looked and provide visual forms of connection, however speculative. Collectively, these diverse stories, whether in dreams, natural phenomena, or digital art, reveal a common hunger for spiritual encounter and affirmation of faith. For many, this journey was personal, too real to dismiss. They weren't simply drawn by stories. They were drawn by something they felt in their own lives. As more people encountered this hope, faith spread in small, intimate ways. Thus, from fear to faith, a transformation took hold, not by force, but through shared vision, tenderness, and simple, everyday love in the hardest of places. At first, the dreams and visions felt deeply personal. Yet, as word of what was happening spread, people outside Gaza, across borders, and even across seas started to take notice. The quiet hope growing in that war-torn place reached far beyond its walls. News channels and Christian media picked up the story, reporting how hundreds of men in Gaza reportedly saw Jesus in dreams and turned their hearts toward him. Underground ministries became the conduits of this news, spreading the message of this spiritual stirring to the wider world. As these accounts circulated, believers across the globe began responding, some in prayer, others in shock, wellness, or renewed faith. A shared moment of vision in a place of darkness began resonating in churches, small groups, and living rooms far beyond the Middle East. Meanwhile, critics raised questions. Some pointed to a lack of independent verification or pressed for more proof. These voices weren't about denying belief, but about asking, how can we be sure this really happened? And yet, for many of those who had lived the dreams or helped share them, certainty lay beyond proof. At the same time, faith leaders around the world began to frame the event in a larger spiritual context. For some, it echoed biblical passages about visions and dreams in the end times, a reminder that hope can rise even amid darkness. It gets even more fascinating. This growing conversation also invited practical action. Charities, pastors, and ordinary believers started to pray, give, and lift Gaza in their hearts, not just as a news story, but as a place where hope was stirring. Many began to live out the message behind the dreams through their own hands and prayers. Curiosity about this phenomenon turned to deeper reflection. Was this singular moment a blip or the start of something bigger? Could a ripple created in dreams in Gaza stir questions about faith in living rooms thousands of miles away? This ripple didn't stay in the media or prayers alone. Some churches began holding special gatherings to share the stories, ask questions, and talk openly about how faith finds unlikely paths. In that way, the vision moved beyond dreams into conversations, hearts, and communities worldwide. Thus, the dreams in Gaza became more than an event. They became a call that reached beyond the rubble, inviting the world to see how hope might spread in the most unlikely places. A modern example of biblical times. What's happening in Gaza is heartbreaking, but it's also reminding people of stories from the Bible. In Scripture, God often spoke to people during very dark times through dreams and visions. Joseph's dreams saved nations from famine. Daniel's visions gave hope to exiles. And the book of Revelation gave strength to early Christians under persecution. These stories show that when people feel lost, God can still shine a light through visions and dreams. In the same way, many in Gaza are now saying they have seen Jesus in their dreams, bringing them peace in the middle of chaos. This connects directly to Acts 2:17, which says that in the last days, God will pour out His Spirit and people will see visions and dream dreams. For a long time, that sounded like something far away, but today it feels very real. These dreams aren't just a way of escaping pain. They carry a message of hope and change, much like the dreams in the Bible. The point is not that God spoke only in the past and is silent now. Instead, He still speaks today, even in places filled with destruction and fear. The visions happening in Gaza show that God's voice has not gone quiet. Just as He spoke through Joseph, Daniel, and John, He may now be using dreams to awaken people, guide them, and bring comfort. These modern stories connect with ancient ones, showing that even in war, God can bring peace and hope through dreams. Still, one might ask, could dreams today carry the same weight as they did in ancient times? In Gaza, people say yes. For them, it's not about ancient stories or theology. It's about something they felt in their hearts, bringing clarity amid chaos. These modern-day visions don't come from a place of power or publicity. They arise amid rubble, loss, and fear, and yet they carry hope, as prophets of old did through struggle and exile. They lift eyes from despair to something beyond visible suffering. Christian teachers and writers have noted this parallel. They point to the way Scripture loops in on itself, that events once recorded as signs of hope now seem to repeat in new forms, in our eyes. They see Gaza's dreamers as echoing biblical visionaries more than 2,000 years ago. At the same time, scholars remind us to be cautious. Just as not every biblical dream was clear or welcomed, modern reports need calm discernment. Yet for those who experienced it, the vision in Gaza feels real, not symbolic, a real turning point in a real place. In the end, this convergence of visions, dreams, and faith responses in modern Gaza connects deeply with what we read in Scripture. It reminds us that the stories from long ago still speak into today, and that even in war, God's voice can be heard in unexpected ways. Do you think these visions and appearances are real, or is there something more to them? Let us know in the comments section. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember to like, share it, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.